And in derision, the people round about them began to call them Christ ones, Christ followers, Christians. That's where the word Christian was first coined. Followers of Jesus Christ.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to Fellowship Church. What a beautiful day it is outside, and a beautiful day it is to be able to worship together. Before I get started, I want to give a shout out to somebody. Is Edison here? He was up there. Edison, are you there?
Yeah, he's right there.
Edison, come here. Come here. I love you, man. So Edison, I wanted to give him a shout out because he put out a song that he wrote in the 21 Days of Creation. And I think there's even a slide about it or something. It's called Jesus You Reign in My Life. Is that the full title? By Edison. How do I pronounce it? My wife would get really mad at me right now. Jimenez. I say Jimenez. Okay. Anyways, it's an incredible worship song. You want anything to say about it? Awesome.
All I'm asking you guys is if you guys like it, please share it. We're fortunate enough to sing it during our time of worship here, and so I'm hoping that some local churches pick it up and for their time of worship.
So give him a big hand. It's pretty good. I bought it yesterday, and I mean, just so much talent around here. It's pretty awesome. Hey, let's get the message started. Before we do, I have another video, and we're going to watch it, and you're going to be inspired. I might talk through it, actually. Those of you around in 1987, you know what's up. Okay? Can I get an amen? All right. Here's the thing. I grew up watching Rocky. Right? It kind of gets you inspired. Kind of gets you motivated. It kind of pumps you up. You're like, Rocky. Here's the thing about Rocky, specifically this particular, Rocky 4. We're not going to preach against the Soviet Union right now, the Cold War. What I'm going to do is this. Put out an interesting thing here. Ivan Drago, right? He was the evil Russian guy. He was bred to be a boxing champion. He had it all. He had the awesome like equipment to work out in, right? He had the monstrous muscles, right? He had all this stuff. He was like taller than me, maybe. He was like 6'5" or something. They said he had these muscles that were huge. He had lots of steroids. He had it all. Now, Rocky, on the other hand, at this point, Rocky he was a boxing champion. He had a name for himself. And the thing about Rocky, though, is he had lost something. Because he was a champion, he got lots of money, and he kind of was taking it easy. So he didn't have, pardon me for the statement, he didn't have the eye of the tiger anymore. So he put himself in these situations to train. Whereas Ivan Drago had all the nice equipment, he put himself in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of snow, in the middle of New England. I'm sorry, that was Russia. He put himself in the middle of all that, and he started training through he would pick up carts and stuff. Let's watch the rest and just get pumped about what's going on here. Alright, here's the whole point of that. The other guy, Ivan Drago, had everything he needed to be a champion. Rocky, at the end, if you remember the boxing match, they were going back and forth. And by all accounts, Rocky should have got his tail handed to him. Like, he should have got crushed. And he kept getting hit. And he kept going after it. Until you remember the Russian guy, of course it was not in Russian, it was in English because American moviegoers could not have understood it. But he said, he just won't back down, or something like that. He won't go away. He's iron. He's made of iron. And so he had all this stuff. But here is ultimately what we would say it is. He had the heart. Now, I believe that God is excited. When I think about God, it is so exciting. Last week we talked about the grace of God. And how all of us at one point we were a mess, we are a mess, or we are one dumb decision away from being a mess. But God, like a father, opens up his arms. And with eyes filled with love and compassion, every time we go away, he comes back and he says, listen, I love you. And he says, now let's party. Today we want to talk another reason why God is so exciting. Heart change. Heart change. Now some churches say it like this. Some churches say like evangelism. Because we get to see heart change, or we want to see heart change in people's lives. And we get to be involved. God lets us in on heart change. Now, here's the thing about Christianity, right? Christianity has a few things. There are things you can know. There are things that are externally that you can know. There are things about Christianity, there are ways that people worship, like in a building, or with different kinds of music. And all those things are external ways of belief. But what God ultimately cares about is your heart. God is interested in what is your heart. Is your heart bowed down to me? Or is it all just words? Is it all just prayers? Is it all just the way dressing up for church? Or is your heart bowed down? Now, heart change, here's why this is important in terms of the church. Because we have a calling on us as followers of Christ to do two things. We have a calling, or rather, to not necessarily reach people's minds. This is what we try to do. Hi, Tyler, how are you? What's up? We say, Tyler, I want to talk you into knowing Jesus. Now, Tyler, I'm going to assume that Tyler knows Jesus. Maybe he doesn't, but I'm just going to assume that, Tyler, you have a relationship with Jesus, okay? So, he's like all red right now. He's nervous. It's okay, you're a man. You're like Rocky, you got the heart. Okay. So Tyler, I could do one of two things. I could talk Tyler in to having a relationship with Jesus. Trying to connect his mind to Jesus. Or I could, in different ways that we're going to talk about, that Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 9, I could try to connect his heart to God. You see, God lets you help with heart change as a follower of Christ. How? Doing what I do, I've gone to several what people call evangelism seminars. Okay? Seminars to try to tell people this is how you lead people to Jesus. Okay? They're really awkward. Okay? I'm just telling you. I went to one that was so awkward, I could tell you the story and we would all get lots of laughs. And it really is quite sad, the whole story in general. But here's the thing about things like that. In American culture, we have these things called evangelism seminars and how to reach people. And what we do is we say, here's the words that you say when you're trying to talk someone into knowing Jesus. But when Paul talks about heart change, when Paul talks about evangelism, he starts with himself. He says, this is what I need to do in order to help others come to Christ. In other words, it is that important. It's important enough to have a seminar, but the seminar, Paul says, is going to be all about me and my life and the things that I need to do to change. We are called, all of us, as followers of Christ, to be a catalyst, if you're there, to be a catalyst for heart change in someone else's life. This is a big responsibility. This is an exciting responsibility. But it's something that we are called to do. Let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Paul talks about this in a big chunk here. He says in verse 19, even though I am a free man with no master, I have become a slave to all people to bring many to Christ. In other words, he starts off easy. He says, even though I am a free man, I am free. I'm like the people 2,000 years from now in America. I am free. I'm a Roman citizen. There are nobody who can enslave me. I am a free person. And that's what we say here in America. We are free as people. Unless your president is not the president. Then you say we're losing our freedoms, right? 8 years ago, all the Democrats said it. Now all the Republicans say it. It's just the way it is. But basically, we are free. And Paul says, even though I'm a free man with no master, I have become a slave to all people to bring many to Christ. In other words, Paul says, I'm going to, when I could assert my rights, I could assert that my freedom is most important. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a slave to people. Because the most important thing is that I help them in the process of heart change toward God. Is that I help them to come into a relationship with Jesus Christ. That is my calling as a follower of Christ. Let's continue. When I was with the Jews, I lived like a Jew to bring the Jews to Christ. When I was with those who follow the Jewish law, I too lived under that law. Even though I am not subject to the law, I did this so I could bring to Christ those who are under the law. When I am with the Gentiles who do not follow the Jewish law, I too live apart from that law so I can bring them to Christ. But I do not ignore the law of God. I obey the law of Christ. When I am with those who are weak, I share their weakness. For I want to bring the weak to Christ. Yes, I try to find common ground with everyone, doing everything I can to save some. I do everything to spread the good news and share in its blessings. So Paul here is teaching us how to look at sharing heart change with others. He says, I find common ground. I then spread the good news and I live it out. Listen, this is so important. The good news of Jesus Christ is just that. It is amazing news for not just people in this room, but for the entire world. That Jesus Christ gave his life for the entire world. And in that, and living out the good news is not a list of beliefs that I try to transfer, but it's a bowing of my heart. It is a bowing of your heart to Jesus Christ. To which some would say, Marty, shouldn't we just let people live the way they want to live? I'm not talking about trying to make someone. I believe it is this important. That it is so important that people are able to live the way God created them to live in the good news of Jesus Christ. And we are not, as a church, in the business of changing people's minds, but we should be training ourselves to help with heart change. Because it is so exciting. You remember that time when your heart was cold toward the things of God? When you were like, no way, your life possibly was miserable. It is possible that you were hard and you were lonely and you hated. You were bitter at that person. And then all of a sudden, the good news of Jesus Christ came in and it affected not just your mind, although eventually that happened, but it affected your heart. There was something inside that broke the wall around your heart. And what it was this incredible news of Jesus Christ. Then Paul uses an analogy of racing. Who's raced before, right? Anybody? Go ahead. Race? A few of us? Awesome. Yeah. Come on, raise your hands. Get excited. Be like Rocky. I like to race. I am a competitive person. Look at Chris Agby raising his hand. 100 miles, whatever. I like to race. I hate to train, but I like to race. But here's the interesting thing. The more effective I am in training, the better I race. So then Paul uses an example of racing. He says this is so important. Now, the Corinthian people, they were into racing. They were into the games. They were into these competitions. So then he's communicating with them. And he says, this is this important. This is this important. So I'm going to talk about bringing people to Christ. And I'm going to say it's like a race. I'm going to say it's this important. So this is what he says. And in the process, he gives us 3 ways to train for the race, to help others with heart change. Verse 24, don't you realize that in a race, everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win. All athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. The first way that Paul says here to train is aim for the prize. I want to change our minds here about something this morning. I want to change our mind. Is that it is not a sad thing, or it is not a quiet thing when someone comes to Christ, when their heart bows down before Christ. It is not something we have to keep a secret. It is an exciting thing that they have given their lives over to something, not to a church, not to an organization, not to a pastor, but they've given their lives over, their hearts have bowed to Christ. Man, that is exciting. And it is not a sad thing, it is a thing that pumps me up. It should be an honor to share the good news of Jesus Christ. Now, what is the race and what is the prize? The race, I think, is when we speak and live out the heart change that Christ brings out to others. In other words, the race is when we bring people to Christ. Is trying actively not to get people to come to your thing. Not to get people to be a part of your everyday life. Is to help their hearts bow to Christ. Oh man, that is so awesome. When people realize my life is not just about what I can see. It's not just about what things make me happy, or how I can feed myself, or the money that I can make, but my life is all about this God who created me. And in that process, because I could not connect with him, he allowed Jesus to come and bridge that gap and die on the cross. Have a relationship with me. Man, it is not sad. It is exciting. It is awesome. And as a follower of Christ, we should be aiming for the prize. The prize. And Paul uses the analogy of a race and a prize. Now, for those of us with a competitive edge, this is a plus, right? Who's competitive? Go ahead. A few of us? All right? I love it. I love it. I want to play you in a board game after the service. Right now. You and I, right? To win is to be successful at what you are trying to accomplish. And that is not wrong. Man, getting out there and allowing, trying to affect others in heart change is an awesome, powerful, spiritual thing. Do you know the kind of people who don't like it when you're successful? Those who aren't successful. Just being honest. When I'm not successful, I'm in basketball, right? I'm in the basketball league. I don't want anybody to be successful if I'm not successful. I might say like, oh, that great game, you know, that's good. I didn't really mean it. I want to win. I want to win. I want to be competitive. Now, here's the thing. We are called to be successful, to aim for the prize. Now, once again, the prize is nothing monetary. It is nothing to get to my church. It is not a time slot. It is your heart bowing to Christ, and how can I help in that process? Man, those people who would drag you down on that, those are success suckers. Yeah. And you cannot let them get in your way. Yeah. Another basketball analogy. I played basketball at the Y some mornings. Used to be a lot more mornings before the Twins, but praise God, we have the Twins. They're awesome. I love them. But they don't sleep. Anyways, I get up and I play basketball, and a couple things happen when I play basketball. There are guys who they're good guys. Sometimes I'm a good guy, right? I'm more interested. Oh, did I hurt you? I'm sorry. Did I foul you? I'm sorry. Oh, my bad. And then there are winners. And they don't care if they foul the person as long as they're winning. Now, I'm not talking about excessive force. That's kind of jacked. I'm just talking about winning. I'm talking about that extra edge. You see it even in the NBA or in sports. People who want to win. People who have a goal, and they want to accomplish that goal. We are a church. We are a body of believers. People, we come together and we sing together, and we're excited about Jesus together, and it should be an awesome thing when people's hearts bow to Christ. Oh man. It should get us excited. Remember, our end result is not to get someone to believe a series of things, but our end result is heart change. And can I be involved? Yes, I can, in the process of someone's heart bowing to Jesus Christ. Oh man, that's beautiful. That's awesome. Aim for the prize. Here's another one. Verse 26, so I run with purpose in every step. I am not just shadowboxing. The second thing is to run with purpose. Are you an accidental Christian? Which means someone might accidentally find out that you go to church or that you pray sometime, but never on purpose. It's kind of an accidental thing. I'm not talking about being a jerk. That's the opposite of what I'm talking about. We're just shadowboxing. You have a personal faith, but your faith doesn't affect anyone. You know what you need to do? Here's how you run on purpose. You develop training habits that are going to lead you in a direction. That's how you do it. That's how you lose weight. You develop habits. That's how you run the race. That's how you win the race. You develop training habits. I wrote down some thoughts on developing relational habits that are going to lead you towards influencing others for Christ. If someone goes through a hard time, ask them immediately if you can pray for them. Oh, well, we're in public. I don't care. Who said you can't pray in public? Well, that's embarrassing. So, I don't know how to pray. Well, I don't know how to pray. That's great. In fact, people that do know how to pray, Jesus said they were jacked up. So I don't want to be one of those people who know how to pray. There's another one. I know a couple, actually, that every time they come here, fellowship, they mark on Facebook that they're at Fellowship Church. Now, once again, this is not a church fit. But here's why they do that. Because they own a business. And tons of people come into their business every day. All of a sudden, those people that come into their business, they say, why were you at Fellowship Church? What's Fellowship Church? Oh, well, let me tell you about why I go there. Let me tell you about why I go to church in the first place. Developing relational habits. Here's another one. I always talk about Facebook. Unbelievable. Instead of complaining and spewing out trash on social media, what if you consistently wrote God-honoring, Jesus-exalting statements? To the point where, what if people were surprised that you wrote a positive comment about Jesus on Facebook? It's okay. Let them be surprised. Run the race on purpose. Here's another one. Pour into others and teach them about what Jesus is all about without even mentioning church. Just pour into others. Just teach people, what is it? Why am I a Christian? Let me share with you that. Here's the key word. Purpose. Purpose. In the Christian life, Jesus says, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Fishers of men. In other words, eventually, if you follow me, you might not be there now, but if you follow me, he will call you to bring people into his kingdom. On purpose. Let's begin to live for him, to run on purpose for him. And here's the third one, and I hate this one. It convicts me and I despise it, but I'm going to preach it here. Verse 27. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified. The third way to train toward the race of bringing others to Christ, bowing their hearts, heart change, self-discipline. Self-discipline. Now, this is important. Self-discipline. In other words, as a church, we don't have to set ground rules for how you're going to live. I don't have to be that guy like, okay, all the guys, you need to cut your hair, please, like mine. You need to dress a certain way with a tie. I know some of you are thinking, oh, he's wearing a tie, that's so awesome. It's not that awesome. It's not that awesome. But listen. One of the most important things about bowing your heart or surrendering your life is who controls you. And one of the problems that people have buying into the whole Christianity thing is Christians say they are controlled by Christ when really they're controlled by a host of other things. Food, greed, sex, pride. And we allow those things to control us. We allow those things to come inside of us, and they control us, and they're actually the things, they're actually destroying our lives. We're saying, oh, Jesus, 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 and then, oh. And then we say, listen to us, follow Jesus, and they look at us and they laugh. Because we don't even have self-discipline. Paul says that he disciplines his body like an athlete. And I wonder if many times we don't talk to people about Christ because we're not really controlled by him. But we're controlled by a bunch of other little gods, little g in our culture. The greatest athletes are self-disciplined to do what it takes to win. The greatest followers of Christ are no different, Paul says. They set boundaries for themselves in order that they might see others bow their hearts to Christ and bring about heart change. Here's a question for you. What do you need to sacrifice so that you can see massive amounts of heart change? Is it financial? Is it food? Is it relationships? Is it pride? What do you need to sacrifice in your life? And it's just a question. What do you need to sacrifice so that you can see massive amounts of heart change? The author, M. Scott Peck, who writes in his book, The Road Less Traveled, he said this: I spent much of my 9th summer on a bicycle. About a mile from our house, the road went down a steep hill and turned sharply at the bottom. Coasting down the hill one morning, I felt my gathering speed to be ecstatic. To give up this ecstasy by applying brakes seemed an absurd self-punishment. So I resolved to simultaneously retain my speed and negotiate the corner. My ecstasy ended seconds later when I was propelled a dozen feet off the road into the woods. I was badly scratched and bleeding, and the front wheel of my new bike was twisted beyond use from its impact against the tree. I had been unwilling to suffer the pain of giving up my ecstatic speed in the interest of maintaining my balance around the corner. I learned, however, that the loss of balance is ultimately more painful than the giving up required to maintain balance. God is so exciting because of heart change. But there are things that we need to do as a church to allow heart change and to affect heart change into other people. If we're going to take our culture and move it outside of this building, then we have to train like we're racing. And unfortunately, I think sometimes we're apologetic. But if we're calling for the right things, if we're calling for the things of Jesus, not for the things of Marty. If we're asking, listen, I think the best thing in your life is your heart bowed down before God. You will be amazed at how your life will change as a result, at how your heart will change as a result, at the bitterness that goes away. You'll be amazed at how your life will be able to affect other people. How this is a pay it forward thing. How when the junk leaves your heart, how much you'll be able to affect, it will change your life and others. Oh man. That we would be a church that wouldn't be apologetic because our motives are pure. And that we would be a church that would run the race to win the prize. That I'm not sad that any of you came to Christ. And that I'm not sad that there are people who are not here yet. And actually, they might not ever get here, but their hearts will change as a result of God working in my life. So here's the thing, here's the question. Is God working in your life? Is He changing your heart? Are you training to run the race so that you get the prize? The end result is seeing heart change. We have to start believing as a church that we can help change hearts. There is something inside of it. I can even feel it in this room right now. There's something inside every time, maybe it's just here in this building. There's something inside of followers of Christ sometimes that says, oh, I want to keep this thing my own. Awesome. I want to keep this thing my own. Here's the question. If it's just your own, then what's it impacting? What's it influencing? Let's take it out of this building. Let's run the race as a church. Man, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome to see the people that we influence, the people we impact. Here's what happens a lot of times. We like a place, so we come here. We're like, wow, I like this place. I like the vibe. I like the excitement. I like the awesomeness. I like the people. They make me feel like community. And then we're like, I don't want anything to change. Because I only like it the way I like it. Well, wait a minute. We've changed so that you could like it here. The same is true with your life. There are ways that you changed, that you came to a point to where your heart bowed down before Christ. But here's the beautiful, awesome thing. Now, He says, I want to make you a fisher of men and women. I want you to take it outside of your homes. I want you to take it to your families. I want you to take it to your workers, co-workers, off time. I'm not talking about doing it rudely. I want to take it to your circles of influence. I want you to be a light to everyone. Why? Because I was a light for you, Jesus says. And I died for you because I love you so much. Now take that love and take it outside of your world. God, help us to run the race, to be heart changers, not mind changers. That doesn't work. Help us to connect relationally with people who you love, which is, by the way, everybody. To take it into our communities, Holden and Worcester, Sterling, Leominster, Auburn, Spencer. God, help us take it and to be heart changers. Because a long time ago, or a short time ago, you